Hey everybody, what's up? My name's Cliff and welcome to Cheap Canadian Gamer. Today it's a head-to-head competition. We're going to go old school with some arcade classics here. We're going to go Double Dragon versus Double Dragon 2 The Revenge. We're talking the arcade versions, not the NES versions. Now I managed to buy both of these arcade classics on the PlayStation Network for $7.99 a piece. Now, we're going to see which Double Dragon is the better one. So got my PlayStation 4 controller over here. So let's load up Double Dragon and Double Dragon 2, The Revenge. Okay, let's start off with the first Double Dragon released in 1987. In this game, you take the role of Billy or Jimmy Lee. You can play in one-player mode or play together with a buddy. Billy's girlfriend Marion is kidnapped by the Black Warriors, and you must rescue her and eventually face off against their leader Willie, who carries a machine gun. There are 4 missions in this game. You go through the city streets, a factory, a forest, and the gang's hideout. You have 3 buttons in this game. You have a punch, kick, and jump button. Use those buttons to punch, kick, elbow, headbutt, and even knee them in the head and throwing them. You can also pick up weapons like rocks and even sticks of dynamite to use on your enemies. Be careful when you're playing in 2-player mode though, because you can accidentally attack your own teammate. Oh, and if both players defeat the final boss, Willie, both players will fight in the end to see which fighter gets Marion. There's a total of 7 different types of enemies in this game, not including the color swap of outfits and skin tones. The game is fun as you mash those buttons to form different attacks. The sound is great with the background music, sounds of the attacks, and the grunts and screams of the enemies as they are defeated. Now there are a few drawbacks that I noticed. There's a bit of slowdown, especially during the second stage when there are numerous enemies on the screen. It's like everyone is moving in slow motion. Another drawback is that it is a relatively short game to play with only 4 missions. You can probably end the game in about 20 minutes. The third drawback is that the game is relatively easy if you can pull off elbows. The elbow move is pretty much your go-to move for every enemy. You can literally pass the first mission on elbows. I did, and it took me a little over 2 minutes. Here, let me show you. Double Dragon is still a fun arcade beat-em-up, and an arcade classic. It is pretty much a predecessor to another arcade beat-em-up called Renegade, which was released in 1986. Despite its flaws, it is still a fun game to play with a friend or on your own. Okay, now let's move on to the sequel, Double Dragon 2 The Revenge. Do you remember at the beginning of the first Double Dragon where Marion gets punched in the gut and is taken away? Well, this time she's not so lucky. At the beginning of number 2, Machine Gun Willie and his thugs are back, and Willie shoots Marion dead. Once again, Billy and Jimmy Lee are back again to avenge her death and defeat Willie and his gang. There are some improvements with Double Dragon 2 compared to its predecessor. There's a slightly larger variety of enemies, with some of them being on the large side. They are also a bit on the smarter side, meaning unlike the first Double Dragon, it's a bit difficult to just finish the game with just the back elbow move. Also, you have a couple of new moves in the arsenal, such as the standing back kick when an enemy is trying to get you from behind, and the jumping cyclone kick, or if you are a Street Fighter purist, a hurricane kick. When you defeat Willy, you have one more enemy to fight, yourself. Your clone can perform the exact same moves you can, but can also teleport and throw projectiles. In 2-player mode, you fight clones of both of you, and the game ends when they are defeated. Now, unlike the first game, there is no fighting each other to the death for Marion's affection because, well, she's dead. Anyway, the controls are a bit different than the first game. The jump button remains the same, but instead of specific punch and kick buttons, you have a left attack and a right attack button. For example, if you're facing the right and you hit the right attack button, you perform a punch. When you hit the left attack button, it performs a back kick. When you're facing the left side, your left attack button is the punch, while the right attack button is the back kick. It gets a bit getting used to. To me, it gives more of a challenge and easier to get your finger ready to hit that attack button when an enemy is coming from behind you. Others may find it a bit frustrating without a specific punch and kick button. Like the first Double Dragon 2 does suffer some moments of slowdown, especially when there are several characters on the screen at the same time. Also, the game is still on the short side with only 4 missions, especially if you can constantly pull off those cyclone/hurricane kicks. The move is a bit of a hit or miss to try and pull off. You can probably finish this game in about 25 to 30 minutes. A couple of the levels are a bit similar to the first game, with a heavy emphasis on mission 2, with the whole elevator and conveyor belt at the end of the level. The soundtrack is pretty good. I wouldn't say the same for the sound effects. They're a bit low quality and not as rich as the sound effects in the first game. So in my opinion, which one's the better game? By a slight margin, it's Double Dragon 2 The Revenge. Now don't get me wrong, the first game is great, it's an arcade classic, but the challenge decreases once you figure out the elbows. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give the first Double Dragon a 7. The second game has its flaws as well, but it has a slightly better variety of enemies and is a bit more challenging than the first one. On a scale of 1 to 10, Double Dragon 2 The Revenge gets a 7.5. Double Dragon and Double Dragon 2 The Revenge are 2 arcade classics that you can get on the PlayStation Store for $7.99 apiece. And for $7.99 apiece, that's not that bad of a price for 2 great arcade classics. Well, there you have it. Double Dragon versus Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, with the winner being Double Dragon 2 The Revenge. Until next time, my name is Cliff, and I'll see you on Cheap Canadian Gamer. So long.